Welcome to our latest Influencers in Hospitality interview, a video Q&A where we ask the influential leaders in our industry to share the strategies and insights that have made them so successful.
Cornelia, great to see you and welcome to Influencers in Hospitality. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Roger, for inviting me. Lovely to be with you. And yes, I'm very well and hope you're well too.
Absolutely. I couldn't be better. Absolutely couldn't be better. I'm going to jump straight into it because I find your background in hospitality and with the life coaching now very intriguing. And, given that you've spent decades in various, senior top manager positions within international hotel hospitality chains, now you've got your own advisory firm specializing in coaching services and corporate development. I'm intrigued to understand what have been the key learnings from your career path, particularly in hospitality, and now in this different field. What have been those key learnings that you think are applicable to the hospitality stakeholders?
Well, for me, the key learnings is really about the service mindset. I inhaled this already as a little girl in my parents' 200-year hotel and Michelin star restaurant. Over decades, it was kind of the collective unconscious or conscious which carried us forward. And what do I actually mean by service mindset? I realize it might sound a little subservient. That is not really what I mean. For me, the service is about really understanding people and their needs. It is obvious that what we need to create is exceptional experiences for customers. But even more so, as leaders, we need to meet our employees with a service mindset if we want to stay competitive. Really understanding their motivations and drivers and how to meet them where they are. Actually, it is the two sides of the same coin. To deliver up front, we need to deliver in the back.
Okay, let me just unpack that because I think it leads to another question, which is very closely related because, your TEDx talk was titled, "Want to be a leader? Think about how to serve," which is what you've just touched on. Now, you talk about understanding the motivations of employees and connecting with them, which is becoming so much more complicated in the world that we live in, where ordinary is no longer somewhat accepted, if we say, in the mindsets of a lot of the younger generation that are influenced by so much of what goes on in social media. So, how do you figure out those motivations of employees and align them with, if you're as a leader, with what you're trying to achieve, or the organization, what is the organization trying to achieve?
I don't really know how you define ordinary, honestly. However, I do think we need to listen. We need to really listen. What is said, and certainly what is not said. So we cannot do or engage with people anymore like one size fits all. We have to make it very tailor-made for our employees, and we have to make it very tailor-made for our guests as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the art of service, really. as a leader. You know what's going on in the outside world, outside of your bubble, but you also understand the fears, anxieties, drivers, motivators of the employees or your staff. Because what do you do with a fabulous product if you don't have the people? And I've been saying this, I don't know, at least for the last 15 years.
In answering that question, what do I mean by ordinary? Let me just turn it the other way around, because I think there's a lot of the younger generation that want to be heroes. Let's put it that way, because there's this environment in social media which is put upon. And I don't think it's just the younger generation. I think it's all of us that engage with significant time in social media. Is, you've got to be seen to be doing something spectacular, achieving, let's say, which brings about its own pressures. So that's what I mean by ordinary. And I guess it's kind of, when I look at your website and that opening quote by Carl Jung, which I love, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are.
Yes.
So I mean, these are loaded questions. I know we're jumping in at the deep end.
No, this is fabulous. This is fabulous because, this is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey to find yourself. And why do people need so much recognition from the outside? Because they don't really know who they are. And I'm talking about who they are, accepting their shadow, accepting their dark sides, and really realizing that actually at the end of the day, everything comes from within. And it takes a lot of courage to go onto this journey because it's hard work. But everything we do is always hard work. If you want to be successful to the outside world, driving your ego, your persona, persona, it comes from Greek, mask. You have different personas in different roles you're having. You can be a father, you are now an interviewer to me, you are a CEO of RLA, and the same is true for everyone. But what is important is to go below the surface, to really dig into your shadow. And shadow you could translate to make it easy for people to understand as, what are your secrets? What are the secrets which you're not sharing with anybody? And you start with that. You might be able to get some answers, but it's not going to happen overnight. And even at my age, where I thought, oh, cool, great, I know it all now. No, I've come to the point where I really realized, no, this is not it. And this is a continuous journey. And it's hard work. And you need to have an outsider, a supervisor, or a coach, or a therapist even. It depends on the cases, where this really clicks in.
Which brings me to that next question. What are those main topics, areas where you are asked to assist in support?
There's actually a growing demand for leadership development, humanizing the workplace and building positive and resilient organizations in our post-COVID hybrid world, and very global, because the world is much more global than prior to COVID. And we support leaders who have a clear vision, but we also support them in finding the vision, and who really want to work with integrity. It encompasses both strategic as well as cultural dimensions when it comes to companies. We also do supervision, have peer groups for issues and concerns, as well as individual coaching. That's kind of what we do. And we do it obviously for hospitality, but also for other service industries, because every organization, well, I can only talk about Europe really, is going through a major change. Because Europe is where our clients are. We don't have a lot in APAC or in the Americas.
Do you see or notice any interesting nuances in the let's say the hospitality world leadership compared to other sectors? Is there anything that you're seeing a common thread between what is transpiring as leadership?
I think the key issue here is the silo mentalities, which still persist in some of the companies. Well, within the hospitality industry, especially when we talk about luxury, okay, and we talk about the different departments, it is imminent that the leaders or the middle managers are really well trained, because with these well-trained middle managers, you also get unqualified people who you can train and you employ for attitude instead of only qualification. Whereas, in the Western world, we kind of eliminated this middle management. So the training has gone because the knowledge has left the company as well. So what do? We really focus on, how can I say that? On making the leaders aware of these interfaces between the departments, that this really needs to work. And you can apply best practice, you can apply cross-training across the board, make people understand what it means to walk in their shoes.
It's interesting you raised the word silo, because that's still something we encounter RLA Global, particularly when working on hotel resort projects that are failing or not achieving targets. We often find the biggest issue is that departments are working in silos, and so there isn't that integration, that common goal between departments, because revenue managers doing their thing, sales is doing theirs, marketing are doing theirs, operations are doing theirs, and so you do not get this common thread and aligned strategic goals that are laid out for everybody to buy into from day one.
But this, at the end of the day, starts with a vision, because the vision is the umbrella. And then in order to make it happen, you have the mission, and there's all the departments around. And you can break down all those silos by creating a lot of understanding. And today, the biggest difficulties, obviously, is also to understand the different cultures. Because people are brought up, and we, in the first 3 years of our life, we are learning so much unconsciously, which we push down. But it's part of us being us. And everybody has this collective unconscious and in the cultural behavior. And all of this plays into the game when you talk about communication. Communication can only happen if there's clarity about the vision and clarity about the mission. And if there's because the common goal can be a revenue goal, which is overarching for the whole organization.
Probably kind of rolling into the next question, which is, as an industry, where do we find additional or hidden value?
Where do we find additional or hidden value? I think the key is really in training our people to create really special, outstanding moments and touch points. Because when people, employees, our people in our industry are successful, then this obviously resonates to our clients and bring a sense of magic and a sense of belonging somewhere far away from home is something that no automated solution or AI can ever replace. However, AI could be the driver behind the scenes, which allows us to truly focus on our customers and their needs and unveil some of the magic, because we've already informed ourselves. You know, nowadays, if you have a very important customer, you can find out a lot more cues on this person than, you know, I don't know, 20 years ago. And it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. 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 So maybe we've already answered this question as well. You know, what should we stop or start doing as an industry? Obviously, we should start working in silos.
Yeah, but you know, that's really overarching to all industries.
Yeah.
You know, if we talk about our industry, I think we forgot to promote the fabulous job or the fabulous jobs our industry really offers and live up to the promises. We need to make owners realize that a nice, outstanding, amazing property, and I said this before, is only as good as the people who work there to make it come to life. Invest in people. Do not see the people as a cost, but as an investment, especially in the pre-opening. And you are very well aware of this. And this is so typical. You invested into the product to make it state of the art. Now invest into the people, take it below the line. And you know what I'm talking about when I say take it below the line, for at least 18 months, so that during this period, you're able to educate stars and ambassadors for the properties to truly make a difference. Mm-hmm. Become more bold and let the world know how fabulous this industry is. Mm-hmm. In no other industry, one can work on a worldwide scale, travel the world, and all of it in conjunction to creating a better and more sustainable world. You can start as a waiter and end up as a CEO. In this industry, anything is possible. Be ambitious and draw a clear line of who you are. Here we go again, you know, as I said before, what you want to achieve and how you may want to achieve it. But it's work, and you need to be able to sustain some suffering while going on this journey. And I think this is what we need to promote. I think, you know, I'm not the one who says we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. I think that's not it. That was true some 20 years ago, yes. But today we're meeting them eye to eye. And we need to really encompass them and listen to them, what they have to say. We need to listen to our customers, and we need to listen to our employees, and need to listen to the people in general and bring it together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, where do you see, kind of looking in crystal ball nazing right now in the next 5 years, I mean, what do you foresee as the main challenges in the landscape of travel and tourism, given the rapidly changing world, the unpredictability that we have, and we've seen that in the last few years. Where do you see what challenges do you see on the horizon?
Well, we definitely have a lot on our plates, for sure. Sustainability regulations and implementing new tech are huge issues, and yet they are small compared to climate change and the threat of a global war. I mean, you know, let's face it. However, there is, of course, also the challenge of the talent shortage you probably refer to. And there I really see that this one thing where we can really make a positive impact in our immediate surroundings, because at the end of the day, this is all we can do. We can only make an impact within our vicinity, where we are, where we have our people. Because the people who work for you are the people who will help you and all of us tackle the other crisis as well. With everything that's going on, you need to have a top team to face all the challenges, and let's face it together as a team and as a leader who really is seen as a leader, because this is a big shortage now.
Leaders. So you're saying there is a drought in the leadership marketplace?
I think there are not enough good leaders who truly listen to the people and who have also some knowledge about who they are and how they need to dig deeper inside themselves. They're great people, but can they really drive the people? What needs to be done? And
go ahead. Sorry, I interjected there.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's knowing who you really are. And I think as a leader, you've got to be able to accept constructive feedback, constructive criticism, know the areas that you need to improve. And I think more often than not, in the environment that we are living in, particularly within social media, we become very insular to where we need to improve because of accepting being vulnerable or accepting that we need to be acknowledge and accept that we need to improve. Do you think that it plays a part?
Of course. I mean, feedback is vital. Critical, constructive feedback is a vital issue to improve yourself. And also taking an outside-in perspective from the outside world in your immediate. A leader needs to have followers because otherwise it's not a leader. So he needs to also speak to the followers and ask for their feedback and what they need in order to really work well, and what he will change or she will change and what needs to change, and listen to that. And yes, of course we are vulnerable, but this is all, of course we are vulnerable because this is how we are. But it's good that we are that because we are human. And this is the emotional part. There's the part with the facts, and there's the emotional part. And, sometimes, and in order to have a humanized workplace, we need to be emotional and we need to show we are passionate because we embrace what we are doing.
But is there a difference there? It's interesting because I always, when I'm looking for new talent, I'm also trying to identify with personalities, capabilities, and there's two categories that I've identified with, and it's certainly been something that has helped me get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. And that is that I've always been looking for those that have confidence, but not an ego. Those that have passion, but not emotional. Because when it's that ego and that emotion becomes entangled, it really blurs, the individual's capabilities.
How much of what you're looking for in another person does it say about yourself as a leader? When you say you need passion but no emotion, how is this going to work together? And how do you keep this separate? And you try to keep the emotion out because otherwise it becomes entangled. Entangled in what? Decision
making. I often find when things can be emotional, they can become spur of the moment. They're not rationalized. And so, it's just a little bit like ego and confidence. Ego, can blur the decision-making process. Of course, this is not scientific. I'm just giving it, talking off the sleeve here of how I have come across these two categories, let's say, in personality.
And were you more successful with that, applying this approach?
I think what it enabled me to do is to understand my own rationalizing of the motivations of an individual and how an individual's decision making was influenced. Was it because of passion, or was it because of an emotional response? Was it an individual's ego that was getting in the way of key decision making, that was compromising the company or compromising certain, strategic decision making.
Yeah, Roger, but there again, if your vision is clear, then people can identify it with your vision, your mission, and then your values, because that's where it really comes into play. Because people can then decide, okay, are the values of the organization aligned with my values? And if that is the case, it can become a win-win. And obviously, when talking about big business decisions, you need to be very rational about them. I mean, you have to do your homework, but you can be more passionate about one project than about another one. But at the end of the day, the negotiation is a person who is taking the negotiation. It's not the AI taking over, nor ChatGPT taking over, is it? Or would you leave the decision to ChatGPT or AI?
If that's a question to me, I hope we don't get to that point of, AI and ChatGPT, taking, key decisions.
Yeah, I really hope so too. I really hope so. And this is why, we need to use these tools to support us and to really prepare the grounds for our negotiations or for whatever project we're running. But this does not mean that we can avoid to deal with people. And we need to learn that. And somebody, from South America has a total different reaction to somebody from Finland or from Germany or from the UK. And this we need to take into account. This is where the listening comes into part again.
And I guess that's why this is such a critical point within hospitality, because it's more likely than in any other business that you're going to, if you're working in hospitality or working in a hotel, you are going to be engaging and working with and serving, cultures and nationalities from all over the world.
And this is the fabulous part of it, because it makes you grow. It grows your perspective. You don't live in your bubble, because you're confronted with this international global world on a daily basis, depending obviously on what kind of hotels or you're running, but generally speaking about what we are kind of focusing on.
Now, talking of growing, I'm interested in your success traits. So what is the best piece of advice you ever received?
I remember very well when I went to the convent in England, and I had a kind of stepfather, my Scottish father, and he said to me, be aware that in any foreign country, behave as if you were the ambassador of the country which you call home. And I thought that was probably one of the most important pieces of advice I ever received, because it encompasses that you're humble, first of all, and you don't take your culture as something which you need to stress on. You're there to learn and to listen, and this is how it works.
What do you think is true that many people might disagree with?
Well, this is my classical one, and you know it, and you've heard it before. The people are an investment in any organization and not a cost. And I would love to have a change in the mindset to really make an impact, because training is an investment. And whenever you look at P&L, it's always featured as a cost. I think there is a big shift because we are working and living and in the service industry. It's the same in hospitals. People are seen as a cost, where you cannot run a hospital without the people. I mean, it's so simple. It's an investment into the infrastructure in society. And this is what people don't see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we in Europe, we get it paid back because the middle management was just eliminated. So people are not there who have the qualification to train others. So now it's really tough to take on unqualified people because people are out there. So
what is the most unusual thing you've had to do to make it work?
Okay, but that was, probably nowadays everybody thinks it's a piece of cake. But actually, already back in the 90s, I'm sorry to go as far back as that, so everybody knows how old I am. We let mothers who had small children work remotely 2 days a week. And actually, I also wanted to launch a kindergarten project in the community. And people laughed at me at the time. But finally, the kindergarten, it was implemented. So, but not only for the hospitality people, but also for the immediate vicinity. But I thought that was, and that was pretty, probably it was also because I was one of the working women with kids at the time. When it was still a very male-driven industry.
Yeah, because I think, you've got to acknowledge that, you did break that glass ceiling. I mean, particularly in, that time in hospitality, hotel management, which was very male dominated.
Absolutely. I mean, you had to look perfect every day, even if you didn't sleep because your kids didn't let you sleep all night. It didn't matter because otherwise it kind of always got back to you and said, she cannot cope with the job and the kids. Because people always have a tendency, they have a tendency to see what is not working instead of seeing what is working and what is good and what it brings to the people, because it brought a lot of understanding and I learned a lot from my kids.
What did you learn growing through that period of senior management and breaking that glass ceiling?
That you have to set clear boundaries about yourself. And where the ego doesn't really come into play so much more, but be true to yourself. Be true to yourself and have profound conversations and not just the superficial cocktail talks. And either they like you or they don't, and that's fine too.
Tough upper lip, as we would say in English.
Sorry?
A tough upper lip, as we would say in English.
Yeah, probably, yeah. That could be it.
Now, if the older and wiser influencer of today, so the older and wiser Cornelia, could pass on a few wise words to that younger Cornelia at the beginning of her career, what would she say?
Travel the world before you're 30. Be true to yourself and do not run with the crowds if the crowds are not for you. I would also tell myself to really take time to reflect and introspect. It's easy to be ambitious and get caught up in the fast lane and really to push everything else down and cover it up. In hospitality, I mean, you can work 18 hours, 7 days a week. Nobody, you're there, you're present, boom, that's it. By that, I really mean our deeper needs, desires, emotions, even anxieties. And take this serious. And because face your anxieties and your own shadow, your hidden secrets, as I said before. It's very important to stop and pause occasionally and also listen to your inner voice and do what truly matters to you. And as a leader, Now and then, it's really important, and this somebody told me at some stage, you need to be able to turn around and look if the others are still following. Because I remember one of the people, she's once said to me, you know, Frau Kausch, we can't really follow you anymore because it's too fast-paced. It would be great if you could slow down a bit. And this was very important learning for me.
I love that. I think you've just captured so many important sound bites and nuggets of wisdom in that final question, that I think it's the perfect point to end our discussion today. Thank you, Cornelia, so much for joining me on Influencers in Hospitality. It really was insightful and inspirational.
Thank you very much, Roger. It was a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for inviting me.